Hey, what's up everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so I'm eating quite possibly the best bowl of oatmeal I've ever had. I might be exaggerating, but I might not be. Doesn't matter. It's very good. Either way, I'm going to hold off on eating it a little bit because I wanted to just turn on the camera and say whatever I had to say. Who knows what it's going to be. I think I want to talk about the LA Lakers, so it's just a little bit of going on before this road trip that I think, you know, in listening to everybody who's been talking about the team, that I can kind of run off a few things that's running through my mind as well in regards to us at absolute random. So nothing scripted as always. So I think Troy Brown Jr., I don't know what his status is in regards to whether or not he's hurt right now. I didn't see him in the last game. He's kind of been struggling a little hot and cold as the season's progressed, but he's a good player. But I think what he's running into in general is that he's going to need to be able to settle into a situation where teams are patient with him. Because what I'm thinking and what I'm finding is that he may be a bit injury prone. But the problem is for a player like him is that he's not extraordinary. So a team has to be patient to say, do we want to keep up with these struggles to get back the production that he's worth? And that's where I think he's going to run into a little trouble in the NBA. He's going to have to work his conditioning out to get to a point where he's consistent so that he can show that he's worth investing in. Because with the injury struggles and then the inconsistencies, it's like, I don't really need to go through this. He's a helpful player, but I can replace him and find someone more durable that can give me more dynamic play. So that's just what I feel. It's not to say that I'm ready to discard the player, but at this point you kind of look at him as an asset and say, I can replace that asset and get a better asset that's more reliable and can probably help me in the same ways. So I don't know if the Lakers are considering shopping him or not. I have no idea. I like the young player, but it seems like he's in and out of the lineup, and when he is out there, you don't never know what you're going to get from him, and that's just not a really good trait on a bad team. Right? And that's what we are. We're a limited basketball club who's finding our way because our stars are really starting to pick it up and find their way. And you're also finding this team is starting to get comfortable with the system that they're running. As I've been listening to other people speak, I do agree they're starting to really get into their sets more so. Going into different plays with a purpose on the offensive end. And it comes and goes based on the chemistry on the team. I think sometimes guys feel a little better than other times, and that will determine whether or not we see a good chemistry and cohesive play in that regard. But I think all in all, we're starting to see the practice time paying off, and the fact that this team has played some games together now starting to play off. So I'm excited about that for the most part. Austin Reeves is really taking off, doing good things. As we talked about 2 games ago, his foot speed kind of going up against some of the players that were a little more fast than him kind of got us in a little trouble. But overall, he's such an important piece to what we do. He's showing leadership, and he's starting to become really efficient in multiple areas. So it's very clear that we need to continue to empower him to play big minutes and continue to do what it is he's been doing for the last couple of games. Anthony Davis, obviously you want to continue to look at Anthony Davis and say, be aggressive. Always look to call for the ball. If it gets to a situation where guys forget to give you the ball, do not hesitate to scream. Do not hesitate to make your presence known. This fan wants you to be very, very intent and selfish about getting your shots. I think it's important for our team to see you succeed at a very high level. And so everybody should want that as a whole. I think we should want you to be the number one right now. I think it's what's best for everybody. And I think if we continue to lean on Anthony Davis, he'll continue to stay more engaged on the defensive end, which makes us a much better team defensively, which will make us a much more winning team. So that's really what it's about. When he loses his interest on the offensive end, it tends to turn into defensive, a lack of defensive intensity or what have you. Even though he's always going to be effective defensively, he's not going to always be fired up defensively. And when he's fired up defensively, I don't know that there is a better defender. To be honest with you, I don't know that there is. So that's the thing. It's about him reaching his potential. I look at a guy like Austin Reeves and say he's maximizing every bit of his potential. If Anthony Davis goes out there with that same mindset to overachieve based on what it is he's capable of, you'll see some of the greatest games ever put together by any human being. Like that's the level he's capable of. So it's like we've already seen glimpses of it. We've seen him do it in New Orleans, and it's about that time. I think what we're seeing honestly is his conditioning. It's just paying off. The stuff that he was doing in the summertime after he took that month off that he told everybody he took and got so much hell for. When he started really doing some of the things that we saw footage of him doing, particularly pictures, I should say, of him, doing the uphill incline type of work and things like that that ultimately reinvent his lower body. Once he started getting in better shape, we knew it would be just a matter of time before he put up the type of numbers that he's capable of putting up, because as I told you guys in an earlier video, it's all about conditioning for athletes, man. And the type of shape he was in these last 2 years, he wasn't in that type of shape, man. I don't know what he was doing differently. Probably just trying to come back from injuries and stuff, but he just wasn't, he didn't look good. And that was the difference. He wasn't playing well because of it. So this is a more in shape Anthony Davis. This is a fit version of himself, and I think this is the only path forward, is to continue staying on the same trajectory in terms of his activity, working out, because that's the difference. That's just ultimately the difference for him. And as somebody who's been out of shape a lot of time in his life, and then someone who's been in shape as well, that the laziness and the complacency that comes from just feeling like the uphill battle of having to work out comes from not really working it into your equation enough. And the more you do it, the less of a chore it becomes, to where it becomes an inverted thought, to where you almost feel awkward when you don't do it. And so I think Anthony Davis, he needs to just get to a point where, first of all, he's healing from all his injuries, and to get to a point where the workouts become like that, to where it's not an uphill battle to even put himself through that stuff, but to more so crave it, to not feel right unless he's done a strenuous certain regimen every day, and if he becomes that type of athlete, he'll put some extra years on his career for sure. So that's really what it's about, man. The injuries, it's about what you do off the court. It's about how you allow yourself to heal. Those things really, really matter for athletes. So, moving on from there, Lonnie Walker III, I don't know what's going on, but we didn't see him in the last game. So I think guys are dealing with some injuries. I overheard that there was some type of foot injury situation going on. I don't know who the two players was. I was only half listening, honestly. I was really busy as I was listening to a particular podcast about the Lakers. But nevertheless, we're having injury issues going into this road trip. And this is not the road trip you want those issues for. You really don't. We're playing some of the toughest teams there are. Now, I will say, looking at this road trip, one would assume you're going to see all of the stars there is to see. But the reality is, guys miss games left and right. Some of these teams have stars that are banged up, and we maybe end up running into some decimated teams. I look at the Philadelphia 76ers, and I'm really not sure who they're going to have out there. I hear James Harden could be on his way back, but I also understand that Joel Embiid's been missing games here and there. He played in the last game, but in limited minutes, so I don't really know where he's at with his conditioning. We play them on the tail end of this road trip, and it's a 7-game trip, so, dang near a week and a half from now, we'll probably see them. But I think I'm looking at that game, and I'm wondering what type of team they're going to have out there. Are they going to be fully healthy? Are they going to be lacking stars? Is Tyrese Maxey going to be close to coming back by then? So that's very curious for me. I'm just looking at this road trip, and I say, I look at the Cleveland trip, for example. Is Jared Allen going to be back? That makes a big difference about what it is. We'll be able to gauge in regards to ourselves. What Chris Middleton will we see tomorrow? This is going to be his first game of the season. So, obviously, I don't expect him to play many minutes. But if he's out there, I don't think it would be a bad idea to try to go after him. Even though he's a fantastic defender with long arms, you want to take advantage of the fact that he's not going to be in the conditioning that we ultimately expect him to be in the playoffs someday going forward. So, it's a tough road trip. That's essentially what I'm telling you guys. We're going to be out on the road, not only for this particular 7-game stretch, but we got a 3-game homestand and then proceed to go on another road trip that's going to last throughout the holidays. So the schedule is absolutely brutal. I was aware that it was a brutal, but now that we're approaching the most brutal part of it, I just kind of understand what we're facing here. The Lakers are basically going to be away from LA until mid-January, like or early January. Basically, January 4th to be exact is when all of these road trips end, and the Lakers can kind of have a nice homestand. So, yeah, this is going to be a rough stretch. Guys going to be on planes in the East Coast. And health is everything. Health is absolutely everything. I'm wondering if the Lakers are going to make a trade, given the fact that they waived Matt Ryan yesterday, which I think is kind of strange, given the fact that we're going on this 7-game road trip. I don't know why you would get rid of a designated shooter when you know you're going on a road trip as a bad three-point shooting team. Now, we've talked about the fact that we can see improvement on the three-point arc in terms of our discipline and all of that. We talk about it nightly. So to say we're a bad team shooting the ball means that I don't expect us to shoot a high percentage if we shoot high volume. But if we keep it low, we're average. You don't want to get rid of your three-point shooter in that situation. You don't necessarily look at that as a positive. So I don't know what the Lakers are thinking, knowing that we have so many road games ahead, getting rid of a designated three-point shooter. So that's curious to me. It's not like I thought Matt Ryan was doing a whole lot of good, but I also didn't think we were putting him in positions to really succeed either. You know, I called him out a few nights ago for coming in garbage time and just really launching some terrible shots. And I said it was the type of thing that can cost him his job, and sure enough, he's waived several days later. And it's like, you know, I wasn't mad at him for what he did. I just knew that he didn't know how to be successful in short minutes. That's all that was. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it spoke to him not being able to do a lot of things good in a lot of minutes. It just means that when it comes to getting small production in short amounts of time, it's really happenstance for a shooter. Maybe they get open, maybe the shot falls, maybe it doesn't. But if everything is leaning on that, then maybe if you only give them a 3-minute spurt, they think they need to come out and just launch a bunch of shots. Hopefully they can get some production to show that they can shoot. If they're hot, they keep their job. If they're not, you know, they gave it their all in the 3 minutes. My thing is, and as I said, you know, you got to find ways of doing things that help your team in the net positive. Because since you're a shooter, what you need to essentially show is that you can do other things. Because obviously the scouts know what your circumstance is. So it's not that they're expecting you to do anything other than decent stuff. And he didn't understand that. And so it was evident he didn't understand that, but it wasn't because he wasn't able to execute that plan. It was just because it wasn't told to him. So I thought he more so needed coaching than anything else. Nevertheless, when a guy shows you he can hit a clutch shot in the way that he did, from the angle that he did at the buzzer, sending you in overtime against a playoff team like the New Orleans Pelicans, you do want to consider that when waiving him, especially in the way that they did. And we've talked about this as well. I think, I want to give credit to the Kareem report. The Kareem really hit the nail on the head. The Lakers just did some bad business in regards to waiving him right after the game. In the way that they did, it was almost like they were reprimanding him for doing something wrong after a win. It just doesn't necessarily need to be done that way, especially when you consider there was no trade made directly after it was done. You can wait until the morning and do it the right way for a guy. You know, I just don't necessarily think certain things have to be done a certain way, and when you're just marking things on a board or looking at people as numbers on a page, you can tend to forget that there's a human side of things. And I think the Lakers definitely appeared to drop the ball in regards to that. So kudos to Kareem Report for pointing it out. And I second that. I just think the Lakers can do a better job of treating our players better, man. When you're trying to be a team that improves their asset class, the one thing you don't want to be is a team that looks as if they're not going to treat the players that they do get correctly, whether they be of high class or low class. And the thing that I've said about this Lakers is that they're playing so much politic ball, and they have so much of their stuff wrapped up in politics, too. It has so much that allows for this kind of stuff to appear to go wrong. We've seen this with Ty Lue. We've seen this with other players as well. We've seen this with players who's had their names involved in trade rumors. It's just a way you can do things without having it go wrong and still get the desired result. And I think the Lakers skip those steps, and maybe it's because they feel they don't have to. And that's just something someone needs to hold them to task for, as well as any other organizations in sports that do that. There are ways to handle people. You can still fire people, but there are ways to do so. You can still meet your deadlines, but there's ways to do so. And this was yet another example of where sports needs to evolve and treat people like human beings, honestly, simply put. So I like Matt Ryan as a player. I don't think he did everything right. I don't know that I wouldn't have waived him, but I certainly think if you didn't have an imminent trade, like boom, waive Matt Ryan, boom, trade for something, then this was not the way to do it. And maybe you thought you had a trade, but if you weren't certain, this was not the way to do it. So that's how I feel about that, man. Do better, Lakers. So, as we move forward, we want to continue to give kudos to players who are playing well. And that's definitely going to be given to LeBron James right now, because he has really shot the ball very well. We've held him to task for not passing it enough, but he got his 8 assists last night on top of 7 rebounds and very, very high efficient shooting. I'm very pleased with that, you know? And we talked a lot about what he said afterward, which I think went a long way in helping my view on him personally off the court and some of the stuff I wanted to see him do in terms of just turning the narrative around on whether or not he's willing to use his voice on black issues and things that ultimately seem like he's being suppressed to speak on because of other situations. So he's been vocal about it in his own way, and I support his right to be, and I think that he did it in a tactful way, and I think there was a little reason to be angry with him if you understood what it is he was trying to convey. So, you know, that's the only way to really put it. I don't think he should be going out on a limb. Like I said earlier, I don't think he should be walking around trying to do too much or too little. I just think that using your voice responsibly and then continuing to do your job is the only way to play it truthfully. And I think he used his voice today, or last night rather. So I think that can go a long way in regaining some of the trust of his community, and maybe even regain some of the trust of the locker room, to be honest with you, if he lost any of it. I think it goes a long way when you first pass the rock and then you do things the right way as well off the court. I think that's what it really comes down to. So, yeah, I think we might turn a corner there. Hopefully we do. But he's going to have to not only do it in other ways, but he's going to have to make that sacrifice on the court where necessary, read and react. And that's just the only way to play it. If the team needs more three-point shooting, then shoot. If you're red hot, then let it fly. If it's not falling, you know you don't have it tonight. I don't think heat checks are the way to go. You know, I never really think heat checks are the way to go. Rarely do we make heat check shots. And for those who don't know what heat checks are, it's like when a guy hits a couple three-point shots and they just want to take an early three-point shot clock shot just to see if they're still hot. I never think of that as a good possession. It never is. It's exciting when guys hit the shot, but I think it does a lot more. It does a lot to hurt you when it goes wrong, and more so than it does for you when the shot falls. It really doesn't do that much for you. So that's something I want to say. I know LeBron loves to do heat checks. I think the smarter way to play is to take a possession off and then come back and heat check in rhythm off of someone's passing you the ball like Austin Reeves did last night. It's not just the three-point shots that we don't want you to take. It's about what three-point shots you are creating for yourself. And I think that's another thing. You know, it's a big difference between being able to shoot off the dribble and then being able to shoot off a rhythm pass from somebody like Russell Westbrook or Austin Reeves. I would like to see us create more plays like what we saw last night in that way, because it's very easy to get other guys going and still get your shot off. And that's something I think LeBron James can create. He can create ways to make teammates better and be the recipient of the shot of the pass so that he could take the shot. I guess is what we got to create. There's more than one way to handle business. You got to figure out how to do what it is you want to do and still not hurt the team. So how do you do it? Well, you got to make sure that the three-point shots you're taking are off passes from others. Simply put. So other guys are engaged, man. Hell, make some of those Anthony Davis passes. You know, if we're feeding Anthony Davis, scoring the ball is definitely something we want him to do all the time. But he can play make. Just like Evan Mobley can play make in Cleveland, there's no reason we can't ask Anthony Davis to play make. You know, it's much easier for him to get shots off. We probably get more efficiency from him just repeatedly shooting the ball, as we know. But I think, to keep other guys involved while he's getting going, I think is important as well. We want to lean on Anthony Davis, but we don't want to get to a point where it's a headache forcing him the ball. And I think we're kind of easing toward that. I saw a little bit of that confusion in the fourth quarter with Dennis Schroeder, particularly trying to force the ball to AD, Russell Westbrook as well. Do we need to get the ball to AD? Absolutely. Do we need to get the AD? Do we need to get the ball to AD in the presence of passing up open shots and good layups and things like that? No. No, there's a limit to everything, and we need to find that balance. So, yes, do I want Anthony Davis to shoot the ball a million times? Absolutely. Do I want him to make plays for others? That too. So we need to work it all out, and I'm pretty sure this road trip is going to give us an opportunity to see a million different looks, and we're going to get a chance to play against some really awesome talent. So that Cleveland game is one to circle on there. That Toronto game is one to circle. And we got to understand something. As soon as this road trip ends, the first game we got is against the Celtics. And as soon as we come home, that 4th, January 4th, when we come home, that's not a nice game for us. So we got to understand that they're going to hit us with a brutal schedule all month long, and we just can't we can't breathe a sigh of relief. One thing that I like about Darvin Ham through these 21 games or whatever it's been is that he really does do a good job of shuffling the lineup from night to night. He shortens his bench, but he shuffles it. He's not using the same 8 players every night. So we get a lot of DMPs here, but I think for the greater good of the 82-game schedule, I think he's strategizing it out pretty solid to keep our team all fairly healthy. So that's one improvement. And another thing that's really big improvement from last year to this year is how we're shooting the free throw. This team has gotten significantly better as a free throw shooting team, and then partially because we have new personnel, but it's worth noting they're shooting the free throw very well. So we appreciate that. Rebounding on the road, especially against very big teams, is important. You're going up against the Milwaukee Bucks, man. We ain't got to tell Darvin Ham who they are. This is where he comes from. So this is going to be a very important basketball game for him. And I trust that our team is going to try to run through a wall to ensure that we get the best opportunity to win this basketball game. Getting blown out is unacceptable. And most importantly, bad for chemistry. Do not embarrass Darvin Ham going back to his crib. Simply put, I know we're going up against a better team, but that doesn't mean we don't have Anthony Davis and LeBron James and Austin Reeves and Lonnie Walker all playing at a very high level at the same time. We should be able to put up a good number against this team, and they should feel very confident against the Milwaukee Bucks tomorrow, basically, and we'll talk about that for sure. And in that Washington game, I think is a trap game, man. Do not think Washington is a bad team. Please don't think that. Kyle Kuzma is more than capable of putting up all-star numbers. He's not the Kyle Kuzma we remember at all. They got him playing right. Simply put, he's better than the Kyle Kuzma we had. he's the 40-point Kyle Kuzma right now, and we need to respect that. And they got guys like Bruce Brown and Kristaps Porzingis, who's playing at a super high level. His conditioning is where it needs to be, so he's an all-star level player right now. Daniel Gafford, somebody I really like on their squad. So we just got to pay attention to them, man. Washington Wizards, and that's a homecoming for Russell Westbrook, so I'm pretty sure that's going to be a big game. And of course, Cleveland, man, you know what it is. The King is returning to Cleveland. We know that's a big game. Obviously, they're a better team than us this year, but again, we can match up with them because we have some of the size necessary to do so. Evan Mobley, Anthony Davis, I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully, Allen won't play in that game. If Allen could just do us a favor and not be there, I think it would go a long way in us having an opportunity to steal one in their crib. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, they're going to try to outclass us. But I like the feistiness of our guards, and I think if we try to get them in foul trouble, we might get lucky. But understand, they're definitely going to be at the line, so prepare for that. So these are things I'm looking at, man. Joel Embiid is going to be on this road trip. As I said, maybe we'll have to see James Harden, who knows he's close to coming back. I'm pretty sure he'll want to come back against the Lakers like everybody else does. And so we'll be ready for that if that's the case. But I'm not too excited about the road trip as it pertains to us doing well, wins and loss wise. What I want to see us do is just meet the intensity of the night. Whatever the other team's doing, meet it. That's all I ask. Don't get blown out. Do not get blown out. Do not roll over. And I think about it like this. We blew a 17-point lead, right? Yes, we can cover one too. So if we happen to find ourselves down by 17, do not give up. I want to see us fight, man. That's really what I want to see. We're a bad team who needs wins. So there's no contingency games on this road trip. Just because a team is better than you does not mean that you're not supposed to try to go out there and get them. And we need to think that way because a lot of teams don't really play that well just because they're really good teams, man. We can catch teams. Some of these dudes just gonna come in thinking the Lakers are just the Lakers because we have been just the Lakers, and that's a good thing because we catch them off guard, smash them. So that's what we need to do, man. Be smart about how you do things. Just past the Kobe minute, but salute. But we got to be smart, man. Intellectually intelligent about how we're being competitive, man. We got to be competitive in our nature. Do not give the enemy ammo. No way, shape, or form. Play defense. Be embarrassed about how you looked against the Spurs, giving up 138 points. Obviously against Indiana, when we gave up the 17-point deficit and all those 3-point shots were wide open for everybody to clown. Be embarrassed, Los Angeles. That's what I want the Lakers to do. I want you to be absolutely and utterly embarrassed by the defensive effort you've been showing us this last week. It's been awful, man. Like, last game, we played well against the Blazers, who were decimated and weren't any good. I don't really count the Blazers. They were half of themselves, basically. We've been playing off on the defensive side of the ball, and we need to assure that we don't give up so many 3-point shots tomorrow. Grayson Allen's going to be shooting very well. Bobby Portis is probably going to be shooting the basketball. Obviously, Middleton coming back. Holiday. They got shooters all up and down that team. We must contest the 3-point shots with some pride out there, man. Open 3-point shots is going to cost for a lot of cussing and irritated Brandon. Y'all don't want to hear me on that in that way. It's not good content. So please contest 3-point shots, Lakers. You got to play Wenyen Gabriel. Got to play the guys that can do that, man. Thomas Bryant, all those dudes need their minutes. We cannot be afraid to go to size. It's why we beat Portland. It's why we beat Portland. Because we respect the size and we went to it. Dennis Schroeder's going to have to be played sparingly, man. Just like Patrick Beverley, I know we love Dennis Schroeder because he's a really talented dude, so we want to lean on the most talented players, but size is more important in some ways because he hurts us defensively when it's time to rebound, when it's time for him to go up against some of these guys who are just heftier and stronger. We have no success, man. We just don't. It becomes a real issue out there depending on the lineup that he's involved in. So if we're not going to compliment Dennis Schroeder with big size players around him, as I always say about most of the players on our team, then we're going to have situations where Dennis Schroeder's going to be a weak link and it's just not going to he's not going to look good out there. He's just not going to look good out there. So we got to make sure we're putting in positions to look good. Don't have him out there trying to rebound and get, having people shoot over his head and stuff like that. Those are matchup issues and those are coaching issues that ultimately end up making the player look bad. So we got to do a better job there because I think that's something that I've been seeing a lot of. So yeah, man, that's where my head's at, man. Hopefully Lonnie Walker is good to go. I hope he's not one of those players with the foot injury. I'm not prepared. I didn't look, but that's the thing, we just want to make sure we're healthy, you guys. That's it. That is the bottom line. Win or lose, stay 100%, man. And Rob Pelinka, if you're going to make a trade while we're on this road trip, we got to be smart about how we're going to do that, man. Because if you're going to decimate, let's say they make a trade where they move Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn, all these different players. What you end up doing is leaning so much on LeBron James, Anthony Davis against teams like Cleveland and, obviously teams that we're going to be seeing on this road trip, Toronto. You don't want to be only 8 deep or 9 deep players on a road trip like this against some of them teams. You're just asking for injury risk. So I just think that it's very important we keep enough bodies, even if it means calling some guys up from the G League to kind of fill in while we figure some things out with the trades or whatever. Because them moving Matt Ryan makes me wonder if a big trade is coming. And I've seen this movie before where they make a big trade on a big road trip and then the guy gets hurt because we're only playing 7 people. So it's like we got to be very careful. It takes a couple days for trades to go through, of course, or for guys to pass the physical or whatever. So you got to be ready for that. Little things, man. I'm telling you, when you watch as much basketball over the years as I have, you've seen it all and a half, man. There's nothing I haven't seen. And when it really comes down to it, you just know what to guard against. Yeah, so that's where my head is, man. I think there's That's pretty much what I want to say, man. Russell Westbrook has to be managed. If he's playing well, we want him to be a facilitator for us. We love seeing him get the ball to big men like Wenyen Gabriel and Thomas Bryant. He really, really excels in situations where he gets to feed big men easy passes to dunk the ball. So, if anything, we just need to continue to put him in rotations with those type of players. And you know, of course, I've already pointed this out once before, but I do think that we can keep him engaged on the defensive end by giving him specific defensive assignments. If we just send him out there to just kind of make up for whatever, he's not going to stay engaged defensively. He's not going to necessarily make the best defensive reads. That's not his game. But if we put him on big players, just like we did early in the season, if we do certain things where we have him doing specific actions, I'm pretty sure we can get the most out of him on the defensive end and keep him active otherwise defensively as well. So those are just little things I'm thinking about. Yeah, man, Patrick Beverley, I guess it just really comes down to whether or not they're going to look to trade him. You know, I think he's probably the most likely guy to be traded if there is a trade. But I also think that what he does and what he brings to the table is needed. You know, as bad as we were defensively against those two teams, as I already mentioned, I just don't know that we can really afford to let him go. I hate to be the guy to say something that I don't think anybody's really going to agree with, because obviously he's been so bad offensively. But you look at that other side of the ball, this team can barely function when AD ain't on the floor and Patrick Beverley ain't on the floor. And that's just the bottom line. Patrick Beverley keeps everybody else engaged because he's always going to make the right play. He usually makes up for what other people are doing wrong a lot of the time. And he makes sure they don't by talking and doing things that they don't often do. So removing him from this lineup without them getting enough from him, getting that to rub off on them, is a mistake. You still need Patrick Beverley there to rub off on these young players who don't have those intangibles yet. It defeated the purpose of giving up all you did. If you're going to let go of Patrick Beverley before you actually get the effect of Patrick Beverley just because he ain't hit a couple shots, you don't want him to hit a couple shots. We're not using him properly. That's the problem. You're asking him to start, and that's some bullcrap. He never should have been asked to start. You should have had him coming off the bench for Austin Reeves and then only bringing him in to be a designated defensive player. When you need certain things done, he comes in and he does those things. Otherwise, you sit him back down. He's never been a facilitator. He's never been that great of an offensive scorer. The only reason why the Clippers were starting him is because they didn't have no point guards. So it was like, outside of Chris Paul, when he was usually down, they needed to use him just to fill in the spot because they didn't have nobody else. He was never really a point guard. He's more so a defensive designated monster, basically. So, gotta use him right, man. And don't, this is just like I said about Austin Reeves earlier on. Don't knock him for not being what it is you think he is when you're not using him correctly. That's exactly what's going on there with Patrick Beverley. We're leaning on him to be something he's totally not. It's hurting us. And it's like, that ain't even what it has to be. Just use him right. You're just using him wrong. That's it. So that's what I want to see us do. Get back to the drawing board with Patrick Beverley. Don't trade him unless you got something absolutely great coming back for him. Because what's wrong with him doesn't have to be wrong with him at all. We're just not using him right. Period. Lean on Austin Reeves more. Period. In that regard. If you need facilitating in that way, you got a point guard. And for God's sakes, call Scottie Pippen's son up, man. I'm not kidding. That kid is way more productive for what it is that we need defensively, for what it is that we need passing the rock, for what it is that we need driving to the basket. He's all of those things. And I know they're saving him for future seasons, but he's a Pippen. He's got the genetics, man. Call him up and get him on this team and let him be one of our big guards, man. We can use what he does. It's not like we can't use him. So I think the Lakers are dropping the ball. We got players that we can use, we're just not using. Fordy Jones. I've been thinking about this all day long. I'm not going to let y'all forget that this guy exists. Mason Jones is somewhere on God's green earth. He should be a part of the Lakers organization. Just like I've been telling you about Wenyen Gabriel. He's just as good as Wenyen Gabriel. And y'all know I'm high on Wenyen Gabriel. Mason Jones is just as good. And he's just as big. And I'm telling you, you load up on players like that, you can match up with anybody. And going on this road trip against Milwaukee and Toronto and these big teams, the hell? You need Mason Jones more than you need Dennis Schroeder. You just don't know it. But I've been telling y'all that all year long. And people going to start understanding I have an eye for talent. You're going to start to understand this. But anyway, I think I'm going to leave the video with that, man. I hope the Lakers can just stay healthy on this road trip. LeBron James can continue to engage in the good energy that ultimately Austin Reeves helped him find in instilling a little confidence in him and just getting on the ball that one single time. And I'm telling you, it's all it takes. You ain't got to do a million different things sometimes to help your team. You just got to know when to do the right thing. That one button press can turn the entire team around. You just got to know exactly when to capture that moment. And that's why I like Austin Reeves so much. Because not only is he good at certain other things, but he's also kind of showing me that he's capable of understanding this. So I think getting him his money is the most important thing for the Lakers to do besides securing other aspects of what we have going on. But like as far as the pieces we want to carry over, him and Lonnie Walker are pieces we should already have plans for. So do not involve them in any trades unless you're getting back Giannis Antetokounmpo or Wembanyama or something. Like other than that, you want to value your role players that you actually have plans for almost as much as you would value anything else that you plan on keeping. You know, as they say, you can have a beautiful vehicle, but if it has no wheels, it ain't going nowhere. A guy like Austin Reeves is your wheels, so you want to keep him on your team no matter what it is you're building. So that's some real stuff right there. So that's what I got to say, man. That's my Laker talk for the evening. This ain't a rant for a change. I got pretty good things to say about my team for a change. So it starts with LeBron James, and it ends with LeBron James. Efficiency king. If he's shooting efficiently and looking to get others involved, and just being as impactful defensively as his body will allow him to be, and then sitting down when his body will not allow him to play defense, and letting other guys make plays, because there's more than one way to score the ball, and we can get more activity out of other guys defensively that maybe he can't give us when he's tired. So he's going to have to be honest about that and let us get those guys on the floor to help us. Team ball is the dream ball, man. We'll win that way. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching. Bye.